Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babylon 9's video with myself and Sloth. Today, we're going to be predicting the starting lineup for the Spurs game this weekend. We've done our preview, so make sure to go check that out before you watch this one as we break down things tactically. But this is more about what we believe the starting 11 is going to be, as there's quite a few different things we could do for this, Sloth. It's obviously a tough game going to Spurs away. Do you feel like it's going to be more of a proactive approach, a reactive approach? How do you think Lopetegui is going to set up structurally going into this game?
I think it's probably going to be more of a proactive approach, just from the fact that I think he's got to make a statement after the embarrassing performance against Chelsea, our last London derby. And he knows, or he'll have an idea of how important this is for West Ham fans, or like how much it means to any football for either club's fan base. As much as Spurs like to pretend they care about us, it doesn't stop them chanting about us half the time, does it? So I think he's going to want to make a statement, and if there's one thing that he needs to keep going is the run of form. So you can't keep stopping and stuttering and dropping points. You need to turn things around if you want to make a statement.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's quite a few different players that could come in and out. Obviously, we beat Ipswich 4-1, so any changes, it's going to be difficult to have any changes from the win. Obviously, if you win 4-1, it's difficult to justify changing a selection. But again, it's a very different scenario going to Spurs away compared to Ipswich at home. So let's go into it, Sloth. Let's go through the lineup from the back line, who we believe is going to be playing. Do you see any changes to that back four from the win against Ipswich before the international break?
No, I don't. And I know there's been a lot of calls for Fab to potentially come back in instead of Areola. I think that is a very, very risky strategy. I wasn't convinced at all by him at Anfield away. And, I thought he looked slower. And I know that the Ipswich goal, you can criticise Areola for, but it's hit.
He hasn't been best though this season, has he, Slough Fariola? He hasn't had the greatest start.
But I think we're perhaps forgetting Fabianski's age. And look, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great keeper, but I just don't think you can drop Areola.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right. I think it would be silly to drop your number one. It doesn't send the best message out either. And yeah, as you say, obviously, it's not like we've got some young, exciting goalkeeper to bring in. Fabianski's done fantastic at West Ham, but again, I don't know how old he is now, 40 years old. So, I think it would be counterproductive to bring him in. In terms of the back line, obviously, Kilman and Todibo are now starting to form that partnership. I think they've played 2 or 3 games together now at centre back. This is the foundation of what we need to build on now, isn't it, Slough, with them 2 at centre back?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is going to be a big test for them to see if they can, we said it so many times on this channels, but clean sheets are very difficult for West Ham at the best of times. And I think going away to Spurs is not exactly the sort of match where you'd ever expect that to happen. Well, not in recent years anyway. So I think you're obviously not going to make a change to it, but obviously facing Solanke, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson is in good form at the moment, but he only really offers pace and I think his biggest threat, his biggest threat is going to be that pace that he has. And I think that if there's any pairing we have that is set to face that combination of pace and quality, I think it's Kilman and Todibo. It'll be really interesting to see how they cope with the number of attacking threats that Spurs have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we mentioned that in the preview, and I think with Wan-Bissaka and Emerson either side, that was something we mentioned as well in the preview show, is that, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, obviously their biggest assets are their pace in behind, and when Solanke gets the ball, their instinct is to dart in behind and make that run in behind off the back of the fullbacks. Emerson and Wan-Bissaka have been criticised recently, and Wan-Bissaka throughout kind of his career switching off in those types of moments and not concentrating in those moments. So it's going to be a massive game for those two if they start, isn't it, Soft, with the pace of Werner and Johnson against them?
Yeah, and I think, we've both been critical of Aaron Wan-Bissaka's hesitancy with his decision making, but also I think just like he's been slow. He's been half-hearted in some of the things that he's done, and I think if we get the Aaron Wan-Bissaka that we saw as soon as he joined those first couple of matches, I think he'll have a very, very good game, and he'll be a nightmare for anything Spurs have to throw against us. But I think you can say that both players have their defensive limitations at times, but I think they are at least offering us the sort of pace and physicality that we've lacked at times on either side.
Yeah, I think with Wan-Bissaka, I'm happy against him against Timo Werner. I think he'll have him. I may be wrong, but I feel like he's got that battle. He just needs to be switched on with those runs in behind. And Emerson, I feel like he's been too easy to play against at times this season. A lot of crosses have come in from that left-hand side where Emerson hasn't closed down the winger fast enough. And Brennan Johnson, as you say, he's been criticised quite heavily this season by the Spurs fan base, and ever since then he's gone on a really good prolific goal scoring run, and his confidence is sky high. So we're going to have to be careful of him because they're, again, Werner and Johnson, they're almost like strikers. They're playing like inside forwards. They're not natural wingers. So their instincts to make that run in behind and smell danger. So yeah, and he's going to have a big game.
If there's one thing that they both do as well, it's that they don't stop running.
Exactly.
They will just keep running at you. And, as we've said many times on this channel, if you have pace and work rate, then it's a nightmare for even 70, 60 minutes. If you keep offering that outlet, it will cause problems.
Right. Who's going to make up the midfield three, Slough? Because Guido Rodriguez kept his place as the starter against Ipswich, even though Edson Alvarez was done from his suspension. And then you've got, obviously, Paqueta, Souček, Soler. Who are you thinking is going to form that midfield three?
I think Souček will keep his place. And I think that potentially we'll see Alvarez drop back into the starting position. I think he offers a bit more legs in the midfield, a bit more pace in the midfield, which is, I know, isn't really a word that you can associate with Edson Alvarez much, but I think he'll be a bit more agile in that centre of the park. And I think it will probably be Paqueta as well. But he needs to have a major step up in his form. And I know he was slightly better against Ipswich, but I think, it's a whole, with all due respect to Ipswich, it's a whole different kettle of fish, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Do you think so? I think Souček had quite a good game. I think he'll keep his place. So what's your final decision with the other midfield two? Does Alvarez come back in or no?
I think he probably will. If he doesn't, then there is a risk that we get overrun in that midfield, if not just with pace. And I think that maybe I'm hesitant to say it, that Lopetegui will drop him into that back five as we've kind of seen him do earlier.
He's not the quickest, is he, Alvarez? He's not like Guido's not fast, but neither is Alvarez.
No, but I think Guido is a fair bit slower, which is a slightly worrying thing to say.
I mean, to be honest, Alvarez doesn't deserve to start this game.
No, he doesn't. But I do think that it will come down to whether he's impressed in training and whether he is fully fit. Because I think if he is, if we get the Alvarez that played last season, then in my opinion, that's a step up from Rodriguez in his recent performances.
Who do you think's more press resistant out of Alvarez and Guido? Because obviously Spurs are going to play a very high pressing system, but one thing we've noticed from the preview is they leave Bentancur as the lone six, and they're playing Maddison and Kulusevski as almost like two number 10s. So there's so much space if you can bypass that press. Who's more likely to feel more comfortable in those types of situations, Alvarez or Guido?
I think when you put it like that, I think you could say that maybe you'd have better luck playing Guido, just because he'll feel more confident on the ball and with his range of passing in terms of if he gets the chance to intercept or if he makes a challenge on either player, then potentially we can transition that and look to counter. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if we do try and shut up shop a little bit more. And I think Alvarez does offer a lot more defensive resilience in that sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts.
Yeah, I would start Alvarez, I think, as you say, just because I think Alvarez will be better at scanning defensively between the lines when Maddison and Kulusevski try and pick up those pockets of space as the two number eights in between the midfield and defense. I think Alvarez is better at that. He'll more than likely pick up a yellow card by doing what he does. But yeah, I feel like if we can start the game with this midfield free, I think if Souček has a good game, then it balances out quite nicely, enough for this type of game because we've got the physicality in there. I feel like we might be a little bit disconnected in transition. So Paqueta, again, is going to have to massively step up and be that person because he hasn't been really so far this season. And yeah, I feel like if we can take the lead in this type of match with 20 minutes to go, then you bring in Guido alongside Alvarez and be that destructor and close off the lines of space between the midfield and striker. And then it's almost, holding on to what you've got and then try and counter when you can. So yeah, I agree. I feel like it probably will be this. It wouldn't surprise me if Guido does start over Alvarez though, just because of the recent performance of Guido against Ipswich. And Lopetegui might feel like it's best to keep a winning team as it is. But moving on to the front three, I think the last game against Ipswich, we both didn't want Antonio to start. He did start. He played very, very well. Got man of the match from us on our channel. Somerville, Kudus, Bowen, Antonio, Fulkirk. We don't know at the time of recording this if he's going to be ready for the squad. It'd probably be on the bench if he is. You've got Danny Ings. What's your front three, Sloth?
I've made my opinions on this quite well known, and I think as much as Antonio impresses me at times, and he does have very good individual games, I think that this sort of opposition, Van der Ven could bully him, and I just kind of worry that he's not going to have enough in his overall game to be able to go up against a top defender or a top athlete like that. So, personally, I would put Kudus in the middle, but I keep saying it, and he keeps going out on the left. So I would be very surprised if it's a change front three. But again, to come back to the argument of form, I think after that performance against Ipswich, you would be very hard pressed to drop him onto the bench, and I think he'd be asking questions. I just think that maybe it's something we'd regret, and I would happily have egg on my face on the final whistle if Antonio scores a hat trick and makes me look silly. I would happily have egg on my face.
I think that's what it is, isn't it? It comes down to consistency. We said it again in the preview that if Antonio was consistently performing like he did against Ipswich, he would be a fantastic number 9 to have. And, there'd be no question about whether he starts this game, regardless if Fulkirk was injured or fit. So that you're asking a 34-year-old to perform in these types of games is tricky. However, saying that, I feel like he deserves to start just because of the Ipswich performance. And look, I don't think it's the long-term solution. Absolutely not. But we know Antonio's record against Tottenham is very good. He knows what it means to play in this type of fixture, which again could be pretty key in this type of scenario. And again, we're not asking him to play 90 minutes in this game. We're asking him to give us 45 to 60, completely empty the gas tank, and then we bring in players like Somerville. You've got Carlos Soler to come off the bench as well. Again, depends how you want to adjust that front three. Maybe even Fulkirk will be ready to play 20, 30 minutes. We shall see. My only concern is obviously, again, as of recording this, we don't know whether Antonio played Jamaica's last game on the Tuesday. But if Antonio did play in that game, again, is he going to be ready? Is he going to be fully fit for this game? It depends how many minutes he's played in that one. So, yeah, as you say, I would either start if Antonio's good and he's sharp and he's ready to go. We play him from the start. I think he deserves that in this game. But if he's not, then don't do it. Bring in Somerville, play Kudus or Bowen down the middle. We've got an adequate replacement in Somerville. He's looked very sharp and he can cause Spurs a lot of problems, whether he's starting or off the bench. So questions for Lopetegui to obviously answer. This is what we suspect the team will be, exactly the same as it was against Ipswich. However, one change being Alvarez in for Guido Rodriguez in that midfield. So yeah, let us know down below in the comments. What do you think the starting lineup's going to be against Spurs this weekend? Tough game, massively important game for us to go and get the win, Slough. But hopefully we can bring back all 3 points as we did last season, and we'll be very, very happy. So yeah, let us know down below in the comments your thoughts. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel for more content. And Slough, until the next one.
Come on, you eyes.